Welcome to the Naples Chad Podcast. This is podcast number 2. We're here at Venture X in Naples, Florida, and I'm excited to bring in a trusted partner of mine. This is Justin Ratliff with Ratliff Home Improvements. Justin, welcome.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you guys.
It's great having Justin here. It's important that people know that, obviously we're here to talk about real estate in Southwest Florida real estate. And when I work with buyers and sellers, it's important that people understand that I have trusted partners in the community. And invariably, when I have a listing, for example, and I have inspections that are done, there's a list that's created of things that need to be fixed. And when I'm representing a seller, I have to attend to those fixes before we close. And Justin has been the guy for the last couple of years that I've really relied on to take care of these lists and these punch out items and knock out these fixes. And, it kind of started with, maybe some painting and some mechanical things here and there. And then I found that Justin, could do a heck of a lot more than just normal everyday handyman items. So, just with an introduction, Justin, if you want to tell me a little bit about Ratliff Home Services and about your company and what you guys do.
Yeah, Ratliff Home Improvements, been established here in Naples. I've been a Naples resident for about 20 years. Basically, we specialize in a lot of different things, multiple trades. I have a rig downstairs that basically is, a home improvement store on wheels. I have a plumbing section, an electrical section, framing section, drywall, painting, electrical troubleshooting. So basically, like Chad had said, with some of these homes for sale with the inspection list, it's a variety of things. It ranges from, small punch list items to roof repairs, anything that will keep the buyer or seller to close. So I think that's important, either on either side, that I please whoever it is I need to please to get the home either sold, for buyer or seller purposes. So basically I specialize in a lot of other areas, along anything to do with remodeling, construction wise. I've always tried to dabble in different things and learn different things. So basically, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's a wide variety of things, obviously. And I think just anecdotally, I want to tell a quick story. I had a listing in a single family neighborhood in Naples, and Justin was starting to do some painting inside the house before we put the listing on the market. And there was a couple of things that needed attended to. And actually one of them was there was an actual doggy door that was in the master suite or the primary suite. There was this little doggy door that was cut out off the floor, and it just looked like 1992 kind of threw up on you. And this doggy door did not, you're looking at this beautiful room and there's this old doggy door with this plastic kind of sheen thing that the dog can go through in and out. And the homeowner was asking if there's something we could do about that. And, I have to kind of confess ignorance with a lot of this stuff. And this is why I rely on people like Justin. So Justin thought about it, and then actually Justin framed out and covered up the door, but made it match the actual baseboards and paint and interior of that wall and kind of blended it in. And then aside from that, up on the chimney, most of the homes here are cinder block construction, and they have stucco exteriors. And on the chimney of the house was this old crest. And effectively, the crest had become old and decrepit and weathered and looked terrible. And the house was this light yellow color. And there was a couple things at play. First of all, the association was basically saying, get rid of that crest. It looks terrible. Second of all, make sure the house aesthetically is pleasing to the association in the neighborhood. And Justin was able to go up there and actually take the crest off, match the stucco, match old, and I'm talking like 25-year-old paint. Do you remember doing that work up there?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I do remember. It was a fun one.
So, and I think that's when I was first wowed, and I was like, holy smokes, like Justin, it's not just like painting or fixing some mechanical things. He can actually match stucco and paint on a 25-year-old house. He can make this chimney look exactly like the house was if it never had a crust on it. And then the thing with the doggy door, it's just, it was... it was really neat to understand like kind of how these things came into play and what your skills were. What are some things that you try and stay away from in the marketplace? What are some of the things that maybe a homeowner might call you or a condo owner might call you and say, hey, I need you to do this? What do you generally stay away from that's not really your cup of tea or that you think's probably not the best for you to handle?
Well, I try to stay basically away from, I wouldn't say bigger jobs, but I think it's, me as being a smaller company. I want to take on the bigger jobs, but I don't have the manpower. There's certain jobs like flooring, for instance. I'll do small rooms. I'll do patch jobs. I'll do repairs. I'll do backsplash, small types of square foot jobs. But I wouldn't take on a whole house, because it's basically wasting the customer's money. It's wasting time. And it's dragging things out too far. If you're in somebody's house and you want to get a job done, especially a floor, you're occupying the homeowner's time. Their house is in disarray and me selfishly saying I can take the job because I want that check, of course, but it's not the right thing to do. So I sub those types of things out. I have a great flooring guy that I use. He does excellent work. Also, I don't like to get into anything roof repair related that's too extensive because for insurance purposes, if there's an issue, we both, have to deal with the consequences. Those are types of things. And it's Florida, so rainy season, we're liable for a lot. So those types of things if I'm honest with the customer, if I can't do it in a certain amount of time, I won't take the job. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can have a bigger company, say, with 5 or 6 laborers come in, for the same amount of money, I'd rather them do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just more cost efficient for both of us.
I think it's a good segue because it's important that people know a large majority of the people that purchase real estate in Southwest Florida actually live up north or live out west or somewhere else besides Naples. And a lot of people are snowbirds. They come here from October to May or October to June or November to May. And a lot of times they purchase a place and they don't know one vendor from another. They don't know what they're getting into. They have some fear. And one of the things that I've done historically over 2 decades is to partner with people like Justin and say, like, I'm putting my name on Justin. Like, I trust Justin and Ratliff Home Improvements implicitly to get things done. And time again, there's been positive results. And also with smartphones these days, a lot of times, like the homeowner can do a FaceTime with you and check the work and look and see what's been done. But it's also important when we talk about integrity and we talk about like standing behind your name and your word and not biting off more than you can chew and not over-promising and under-delivering. And so I think it's important that, and I love what you said about that like, yeah, you'd love the paycheck, but it's not the honest or right thing to do, right? So that's an example of, another reason why I work with Justin or I recommend Justin's services and that type of thing. I think let's extrapolate that a little bit. Let's get into a little bit more about how you're different than, say, XYZ handyman or XYZ home improvement company. What are people getting like from start to finish with you and how you're different in Ratliff Home Improvements than somebody else that they may call to do the job?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And I kind of went over this on the drive over, tried to plan something like we want to do. But, I mean, it's basically I treat others how I would want to be treated. You know what I mean? I'm walking into one of your biggest investments. You know what I mean? It's important, and you're trusting me. You're trusting a person you've never met to come into your house, to your sanctuary, basically. So I bring that. I bring my knowledge. I don't want to be that contractor that knows more than you, so you're supposed to go with what I say. I don't want to be that. I want you to be in charge of what you want done. I'm big on, like you said, with the cell phones, I'm big on pictures. Because you can tell a customer something all day long, how you're going to do something. They want to visualize. They want to be able to see it. So there's a lot of jobs that are similar to what a customer is asking me. I'll pull up my tablet or my phone, and I'll show them this is the options that they had. This is what they chose. And I always want to give the customer options. I think what separates me is I don't really want to separate myself from the competition because I don't know what other people are doing, but I go based on what my customers, new customers, or previous customers or ongoing customers say There's things that they point out. I'm no longer using this company. I called you because of this. So those are notes that I write down. The customer will tell you how they feel. They absolutely will. They'll tell you how they feel about their current company or the previous company. They always do. So I can go based off of that, but I think it's basically doing the next right thing. A lot of my jobs, I think what separates me is a lot of my customers aren't here. They're seasonal, and when I do work, they're not here. So basically, in a world where you can get away with anything, I open up a lot of walls and do a lot of drywall repairs, and there are things that you find. You open up the can of worms, and nobody's here. Who's going to watch me if I just cover this up? Those types of things I can't do. They eat at me. I lose sleep over those things.
Sure.
It's just not. It's not the right thing to do for anybody. If I had someone working in my home, what would I expect? I would do exactly what. If I was the person working in my home, I would do what's right. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I take pictures. Like I said, if I open something up and it's repaired, I'm taking a picture of what's behind there, what's repaired in the process, and what's done after, so you can see it. Even when I'm in attics, the homeowner obviously is not going to get in the attic with you. They're not going to get on the roof. But if it takes me 2 seconds to take a picture of a before and after, the work was done. You're seeing it in real time. So I think it's super important. I had a lady that I went to yesterday that she's an older lady, 85 years old. And she had a company, 2 different companies there. One was an AC company. They replaced the filters. Well, she says, I can smell dust. I'm allergic, my allergies. There's no filter in either air handler or return. Not a filter at all. There's nothing in it. And they charged her for it. It's crazy. And she couldn't even shut her laundry door because the dryer vent wasn't installed properly. So it's small things like that where I don't want to be that guy, you know what I mean? And I don't want to say, like, this company's terrible for doing that. I just do, what's right. And I try to stick to that best I can, so.
Right. That's a perfect example, and I appreciate that. I can tell you also that anecdotally, when I've done work with Justin, for example, I remember we had a home that we were closing, and one of the homeowners had inadvertently driven her car into the sheetrock. So imagine a garage with a cement floor. It was a big 3-car garage. And on the right side of the garage, where you drive in, she had ran into the sheetrock, the drywall. And the homeowner had taken a piece of cardboard and basically taped it over the hole in the sheetrock. There's also a piece of trim on the bottom. And so to close this up for the buyer, and we needed this to look right, we hired Justin. Justin came over and pulled the piece of cardboard off, and here's this hole in the wall. And Justin then attended to repairing that sheetrock, but also texturing and matching and painting and replacing the trim, because he felt, and I attest to this because I walked through this with him this past year, hey, this doesn't look right. And what made me feel good and what made Justin feel good and ultimately the homeowners feel good is that this was done the right way. So if you looked at this wall when it was done, it literally looked like when the home was built in 2017. It was completely finished. You couldn't tell that there was ever a hole there. It looked brand new. And it's just, to me, it's been amazing because it's not just somebody that can work on some locks on some sliders or some rollers or some other mechanical things or some touch-up paint. I'm talking like wholesale, taking a giant hole in a wall that was clearly visible and making the wall look exactly like day one when the contractors were, or when the home was finished and delivered its certificate of occupancy. So I appreciate that, Justin. I think like having that conscious and having that, your word is your bond, your reputation precedes you, and really standing firm. I want to get into one other quick story about Justin just to kind of talk about this, because I think it's really important that the viewers understand that, you have choices in the marketplace. You can call, you can read Google reviews, you can see who's the cheapest, who's the most affordable, but effectively it's important that, like, I've built a team of trusted partners, whether it's attorneys, whether it's mortgage, whether it's handyman, whether it's plumber, electrician, roofer, etc. And these are the people that I'm going to vouch for. These are the people that I'm putting forward that I can tell my customer emphatically, without question, this is my guy. It's the only one that I use. Justin happens to be that guy. I had a listing in Pelican Bay. It was a condo. And we put it under contract very quickly, and we needed some repairs done. But in this case, what was interesting is, so imagine this. So I have the listing and I'm representing the seller. Another real estate agent was representing the buyer. I had no relationship with that buyer whatsoever. This realtor worked in town, had some relationships, and that realtor came to me and said she's going to want a good handyman or somebody that can do home improvements after contract, after we close. Is going to want some things done. And so I gave that realtor and his customer Justin's number. And in this case, we weren't doing fixes before close. We were giving a credit. So effectively what happened is I gave them Justin's number. Justin was actually hired to do some painting and some other things. And about 30 or 45 days after that unit had closed, I got a phone call from an unknown number, and I took the call because it might be a customer. And it was actually that buyer that had closed on that unit that was not my customer. And she was just going on and on and on about how good Justin was and the quality of the work and how happy she was. And I can count on one hand how many times I've received phone calls like that, where somebody was so elated that things had worked out that well. And in fact, she even referred you, I think, to a couple of her friends in Pelican Bay, and you ended up getting work out of that. So that's a tip of my cap to you, man. That's
appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, that's what this is all about, and it's important that people know, like, we've vetted these people, we've been through this. I've had experiences with other vendors and other other handymen, other electricians, other plumbers, and you get to a point where, like, you have to trust, and because I'm putting your name forward and I'm vouching for you. So it's important that buyers and sellers understand that I partner with people like Justin and Ratliff Home Improvements because I know that they're going to finish the job, they're going to do things correctly, they're going to do the next right thing, they're going to take care of things. Let's pivot away real quickly from home improvements and from what you do for work, and let's just talk a little bit about where you're from originally and what you like to do in your free time when you're not working. I know you work a lot, but if you want to talk about what you do in your free time, where you're from originally, and how you spend your time when you're not working.
Basically, I'm born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I lived there 20 years. And basically, I had a roofing company, and when I moved down here in 2005, and that was when the fall of the auto market industries and factories and parts, everything were being shipped overseas. So Florida was like the next best thing. I had a roofing company, and hurricanes were tearing Florida apart. So I decided to come down here when the storms would hit. I worked for FEMA Blue Tarpon Roofs, and I would stay a couple months, and I would drive back. So I think the weather was beautiful, and the amount of money I made, it was kind of like it's a no-brainer. I'm going to move to Florida. And when I did that, I realized my pale-skinned Michigan boy can't be on a Florida roof. I learned that quick. So that business, I let that business go.
That makes two of us, man.
Yeah. So I decided to start the construction business, and it's been great. And I've learned a lot. I mean, I say that to do the next right thing now, I didn't always do that. We all take that high road and we chase the dollar and we don't make the right decisions. That's where I'm at with the knowledge, the understanding I have today to treat, treat others how I want to be treated, because I've lived the other way. I've made those mistakes already. And so I think it's important. Basically, like you said, I work a lot. My days off is paperwork, but I do find time to meditate. I like to go to the gym because it's not only a physical thing, it's mental as well, to feel fit, to feel good, to eat healthy. I love to spend time outside. If I can hike once a month, I will, to kind of get a break, to get away, because sometimes the brain needs to rest. Needs to see something different other than painting and flooring and samples. But I love to work. I love what I do. I take pride in what I do, so I think that's important as well as a hobby.
Right.
It's not a job to me. It's a hobby.
Yeah.
And I love it. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Now, that kind of is a good segue into, like, how you learned all these skills. So I joke that the best tool in my toolbox is my checkbook. That's my joke. Like, I did some roofing in college and was doing labor. And I remember I went to work for a kind of a high-end painter in my hometown in Ohio, and there's these gorgeous old Victorian homes. You've probably seen those in the Midwest and in Michigan, and beautiful ornate wood and millwork, and just beautifully crafted that needs oil painted on these things. And so I get hired by this painter, and I'm literally looking like I'm having a seizure painting this piece of wood, and he just stops me like mid-stroke. And just takes the brush out of my hand and says, no, you're a scrape and tape guy going forward. You are done with this oil painting, like you're making a catastrophe here. So I have such a admiration for people that are good with their hands, that have attention to detail, that understand how to do things. How did you learn these different trades? How did you learn to do sheetrock? How did you learn to paint? How did you learn to do flooring? How did you learn to do trim carpentry? How did you learn these different skills that you bring to the table every day?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. When I was young, I was, like a lot of us boys were, I was rambunctious. I was full of energy. I was causing mayhem, per se. So my uncle was, he built pole barns. Anything with wood in the hands this guy could build. So my mom would send me with him.
Well, explain what a pole barn is for people that aren't from the Midwest, because a lot of people don't know what that is.
Basically, it's a big shed built out of wood.
Okay.
Basically. And up there, he would build. He was just a jack of all trades. I always seen this guy doing something, building decks, installing window, working on cars. He taught me how to work on cars. It was just something that I liked to do. I was a hands-on person. I wasn't a book smart guy. I've never been one to read and follow through with what I'm reading. If it's an action after, I'd rather do the action. Show me how to do it, and I will figure out how to do it. Okay. Sometimes I'll try to figure out a better way, because that's the ego. But he taught me a lot. He taught me a lot of different things, and he did a lot of things, and I always chased him around since I was 10 years old. I remember we raised the floor in my mom's house and put the plumbing in it because it was freezing underground. There was no insulation. So that was like one of the first things I did. I didn't know what I was doing. I was swinging a hammer, and he would show me, and he was very intricate on, this is how we do this, and I always learned. And then, 11, 12 years old, we closed in the garage, and we made it an actual living room with new windows and insulation, and I didn't know what I was doing again, but I just followed his advice, and through the years, I just kind of I always wanted to dabble. It was like YouTube, but we didn't have it back then. It was YouTube, like, in person. I made a lot of mistakes doing things, and I learned.
Right.
That's why with certain things that I do, there is an art to it, but I made a lot of mistakes to find the right niche to get things to be, like you were saying, matching stucco. I've done thousands of them. So there's always a pattern to certain, styles and techniques, but you got to make mistakes to learn.
Right.
But, and then along the years, I never could see myself, I never wanted to be stuck. I wanted to learn more. I always wanted to learn. And with all these trades, like I say, per se, when you call me, like I said, with my van, everything's stocked in there. I make sure I have 3 or 4 of everything. So if I pull up to a job and it's change a toilet flange or change something that's normally a wear and tear item on maintenance, preventative maintenance, it's in the van. You know what I mean? You don't have to call, if you're doing a remodel, you don't have to call a painter, you don't have to call a plumber, you don't have to call someone to remove countertops or demo or cleaning. It's a one-stop shop. It takes all that headache and worry away. So
right. Well, that's awesome, man. It's like I said, my brother and my dad are dentists. My dad was a dentist. He's sold his practice since, but they're really good with their hands and working on teeth and rebuilding and remodeling, and I guess that just skipped me. And it's funny. I was definitely a labor guy as a roofer. I did 2 years at commercial and 1 year residential, and we did those 13 pitches like this, and that's before OSHA and strapping in and tying in and all that other stuff, and it taught me enough that I learned the value of $1 back then, and I learned the value of hard work, but I also had an appreciation for people that are in those trades that understand and have to do that. And down here, I mean, obviously you have, whether it's new construction or people are remodeling or people are rebuilding, it's a great asset to have, right? And it's important. It's important that we know people like yourself that can do those type of things, but I think it's also neat. I'm trying to think of things like I understand the flooring thing from earlier, but there's really not much you can't do. And that's the neat thing. And I love the fact that you said earlier, you don't want to get over your skis. So if there's something that is just not like, if it needs like actual permitted licensed electrician or plumbing work, then we're going to go that route, and we're not going to open a can of worms and expose the homeowner. A lot of people don't realize this, but in Florida, whether it's on the Florida state contract that everybody uses or the local Naples area board of realtor contract, unpermitted work is actually considered a defective inspection item, and it can be a real problem. So it's nice to have somebody like Justin who on the front end will tell people, guys, I can do this, but a permit's involved, and then we go through the requisite channels to get the permits and get those things done. But there's also a lot of work that falls under handyman and home improvements that don't require permits that Justin can handle, and he is kind of like one-stop shopping and that type of thing. All right, I think what would be fun is kind of getting into some of the jobs that you've been on before, and maybe some of the before and after work. I think seeing is believing, and I think what I want to do is kind of explore, what we got into with some of these things. This first, so we're going to kind of do a before and after, and I want to talk about these jobs that you sent me here. So it looks like in this first one that we have a bathroom vanity, right? And it looks like we deconstructed the cabinets and the area around where the vanities are. And if you just want to talk a little bit about, what was there before and what you did and about this project.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there was a lot more than just this and a vanity and some cabinets. This actually was the picture maybe up on the screen, but it's to the right in that small toilet room. The toilet flange was set too low before the tile because the tile floor was done after, and they didn't use the proper height wax ring. So the water for 6 months was dripping into the membrane under the tile. So
oh, wow.
You couldn't visually see water, but it's under the floor, and eventually it got to the trim in the master bedroom, and you could see discoloration, but he had pets, so he thought maybe it was from a pet peeing on the corner of the casing. Wow. But come to find out, it was that toilet wax ring had failed, and it's been leaking for 6 months. So anything drywall-wise in that master bedroom, closet, bathroom, you can see an actual purple piece under the vanity and the before. All that had to be cut out up 2 feet. This is a part where it's partially done, reconstructed back together, but the installation had to be removed. Any wood framing that was saturated. Drywall, plumbing, I redid the plumbing. These are types of things that, I believe most people would, pass over. But there was a shutoff valve that runs the supply to the toilet that wasn't mounted properly. It wasn't fastened. So if you turn it the wrong way, you could snap the pipe off. And you're back in the same situation again.
So when he originally called you, was he just saying, like, I think I have a leak, or did he know how severe this was?
No, he didn't, because it didn't show a lot of signs. I had to put a moisture meter on the walls.
Okay.
And that's where you see the damage. And once you pull the drywall, the backside of it is where you see all that stains and mold and whatever the case may be.
Right.
But he wasn't aware of what it was because it was all under the floor.
Right.
So that was the big thing. All that had to be torn out. And the biggest thing about this was there was stuff in the walls that just you probably could have passed. It's thermal insulation. But those types of things I like to just change. The walls are already open.
Mm-hmm.
Why not restart like this house is just being built again? Do it right.
Right.
And then fasten the shut-off valve to the wall properly because there wasn't a strap on it. And then and I rebuilt the toilet flange, and I raised it with proper height to the floor, and then still used a extra thick reinforced wax ring because these things, you don't want them to happen again.
Did you say this was a newer house?
No, I think it was 17 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, but the flooring was all new.
Okay, so whoever did the flooring job just completely avoided like the height of the flange in the toilet.
Yep.
They had an insufficient ring for water. You had basically a plumbing issue from the toilet that after a while just ran water under that tile, under that vanity, into the actual master bedroom where they sleep, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So this is a great example of like maybe coming over to check this out, and kind of it's almost like Geraldo Rivera's vault or Al Capone's vault when Geraldo did that thing, like opening it up and what are we going to find? But it's solving problems too, right?
Right.
It's explaining to the homeowner why this is leaking, what we need to do, what you recommend, and then leaving it up to the homeowner to make that decision, right?
Right. Yeah, and it's basically being honest. I mean, they traveled, but when I was able to walk with both of them, I had the walls opened up. I had the pieces that I still torn out there. They were bagged, but they were there. And I had videos and pictures. So I said we need to go up as far as we need to where there's no moisture readings.
Right.
And as far as we need to go to cut it all out.
Right.
To restart. Because it's important. Because, one, you have mold. Two, it's air quality issues, which you could smell. You can smell it when you open it.
Right.
And I think that's super important. Another thing was the bathroom vanity got wet. Could have been reused, of course. But, again, once wood... That type of wood is, susceptible to water or it's absorbed water. It's got to be thrown out.
Yeah.
So I had to have the end cabinet completely rebuilt to match the other one, which it turned out absolutely flawless. But it was done right.
Right.
Even behind the cabinets. In this photo, it's purple, but it was all primed, textured. Even behind the mirrors, the customer's like, "Why are you texturing the patches behind the mirrors from the old glue marks?" I said, because it's the right thing to do. The drywall needs to be sealed for moisture. It's a shower room.
Right.
You'll never see it, of course, but it's not the point.
Right.
It's the intention of the durability of the products that are supposed to be, tested and installed properly.
But that's literally doing the next right thing.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to see it because it's behind a vanity, but you know in your heart before you walk out of that room that you're doing it the right way.
Yep.
And that it's going to prevent the moisture from getting behind that sheetrock and exacerbating and causing a bigger problem down the road.
Yep.
That's part and parcel. That's a prime example of why we're a good fit and why I have zero problems referring Justin Ratliff to my customers for things just like that. Let's move on to this other one. This other photo here. This looks like a ceiling in a kitchen. So this is the famous kind of framed in a kitchen where you have a framing for recessed lighting, and then they had a junction box up there with a fan, which was really cool in the early 90s, maybe late 80s, early 90s, but it impedes the ceiling height, and then a lot of times it's sitting over a bar or a counter, and a lot of people want to they either want to run pendant lights or they want to raise that up to where trusses are and where the actual ceiling is. So if you can talk a little bit about what you did in this kitchen here.
Yeah, basically this was... It's an older home in Naples Park. Basically, there was some beadboard where the ceiling fan is. What was from, it looked like it's from the 70s.
Okay.
We can go with the 90s.
If it's Naples Park, it could have been the 70s for sure.
Yeah, but basically, it's just the lighting was terrible. And she wanted to upgrade the lighting, so I figured we could pull down. There was fluorescent tube lighting up there where the ceiling fan was. So basically, I pulled down that whole ceiling up there in the recess part, the pop-up, and redid all the drywall just because the finish of it had glue on it, which you could have skimmed over, but I liked it. It's easier just to start with a clean slate. In doing so, I was able to pull the wiring up there at the same time. And basically, we did, I believe we did 9 LED drop-down can lights.
Okay.
For their on a dimmer switch as well. And then I textured the ceiling pop-up to match the drop ceiling there. And then I installed a new ceiling fan, and we did paint, color match ceiling paint, and color match the wall paint. And it turned out to be really nice.
Yeah, no, this is the kind of thing where you don't have to make wholesale changes, but just a ceiling height, just a difference to modernize. It can have all the difference in the world. This is a prime example. Maybe you're thinking of selling your place, and it kind of does look a little older, archaic, some of the features inside the kitchen or the house, and somebody, it's not going to break the bank to do something like this. We're not wholesale doing an addition to a house or gutting an entire property and then just stripping it down to the studs and the cement. We're just attending to a ceiling and kind of how it sets up, and then adding some additional light. Because in the 70s, you were lucky to have one single junction box in the ceiling per room, right, for lighting, and maybe not as many windows. So this is going to brighten up that kitchen and really use like a feature room where the family's going to gather and that type of thing, and something that you can handle. It looks awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
And then let's get into this last one here. Looks like another vanity in a bathroom here, or if you want to explain what you were doing here.
Yeah, this was another ongoing leak. This was in like a mother-in-law type suite. You can see in the demo of the picture there was a drain that I don't know who did it, Joe Schmo, but they put like a rubber boot on the drain that goes into the floor. And you know, in time rubber deteriorates.
Sure.
It wasn't done properly with PVC, and it was covered up like that. And the old vanity, I don't have a picture of it, but it was that press board. So for all those years, it just deteriorated and fell apart. The sink actually fell through the countertop. That's how long it's been leaking.
The sink fell through the countertop.
Yeah, the water just absorbed from the floor to the top of this cabinet. The doors fell off. The drawers fell in. The sink fell through the countertop. Basically, so I just gutted this whole entire bathroom. The first picture was a partial, but I took the drywall all the way to the ceiling in this one. And I replaced the plumbing in the walls. I didn't just do the drain. I went all the way from the kitchen sink all the way over and redid the water lines, supply lines as well. And then we cut out, I did all the studs as well, just because it sat so long being wet. The header, footer. And then put it back together, basically. And she had this funky style vanity with the open bottom and the tile floor. Obviously, you can see where I had to incorporate a floor backsplash in front to make up that difference.
Yeah, I can see that.
So when you look under the vanity, you don't see, obviously, the floor. And I went ahead and did a strip in front of the shower as well, if you can see. The same match, because there's a cutout over there that didn't look good. So it just made the space flow, a lot better. And it didn't cost her much, but it was a nice little upgrade. We didn't have to do anything with the existing floor.
Right.
Sometimes you can add these backsplashes to incorporate the differences and make everything flow.
Yeah, that decorative tile or listello or whatever they call it, and it also breaks it up and gives it a little bit of a design feature.
Yeah.
Which looks good. Well, yeah, this is great. So these are 3 examples of this work, and Justin, if we can just wrap this thing up, I think that what I'd like to talk about is, let's talk about scheduling. Let's talk about, I know you're pretty booked out, but if somebody wants to get a hold of you or they want to get an estimate or a bid, can you walk people through the process, the easiest way for that whole thing to start and finish?
Yeah, well, the name of the company is Ratliff Home Improvements. You can go online. I have a website as well, www.ratliffhomeimprovements.com. You can call my cell phone as well to schedule an appointment or questions or concerns, 239-692-3309. And that's basically it. As far as scheduling, I know we had talked in the lobby before we came up here that a lot of my customers say, at least you called me back.
Right.
and it's surprising how many people say that.
Yeah.
I think it's a common courtesy,
right.
I tend to do that. By end of day, if I've gotten a call, I will call them back and say, "Hey, I'm too busy. I can't get to you." And 9 times out of 10, they're thankful for that. They're grateful.
Right.
At least you call me back, and I always try to be that guy.
Right.
At least I called, and then eventually, when I get the time to get to them, they're still waiting. No one else has called. No one else has scheduled anything.
That does not shock me.
Yeah.
That does not shock me.
I think that's super important. And I think with me, the word of mouth thing we talked about is tremendous. Like that. It's not only like the work ethic, it's being respectful, it's being prompt, it's showing up on time, it's keeping their home clean, respecting their pets, their kids, just being, a good source of energy walking into their home and not like, I'm a contractor, I'm a Mr. Know-It-All. So I think that's super important. That's what people remember mostly. How you treated them with respect, and it's not all about work ethic. It's a lot more about being human and being, that light, making them feel comfortable with what you're doing in their home.
Right.
Super important. So.
Right. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate it. It's great to see you. It's very easy for me to talk about your company. It's very easy for me to refer you to customers. And I appreciate you taking time today to come in and doing our second podcast. And guys, I can't speak highly enough about Justin and Ratliff Home Improvements. And if you have any questions, you have a way. We'll have descriptions in this video of how to get a hold of Justin, or if you have any questions for myself, and Justin can walk you through the process of things that you might need attended to. And I appreciate you coming out, man.
Yes,
Good to
sir.
see you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
All right.